नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 10, text 11. तेषाम् एवानुकम्पार्थम् अहम् अज्ञानजं तमः नाशयामि आत्मभावस्थो ज्ञानदीपेन भास्वता. So Krishna says, for those, tesham, for whom, that he described in the last 2 3 verses, those who are engaged in his devotional service. For them, tesham eva anukampardham, anukampa ardham, for the purpose of showing them compassion, to show them special mercy, tesham eva anukampardham, aham, I, what I will do, nashayami, I will destroy. What he will destroy? Agnanajam tamaha. The tama means tamoguna or the darkness. So Krishna destroys the darkness which is born of agnana. Agnanajam tamaha. The darkness born of ignorance. Nashayami. I destroy because Atma Bhavasthaha. Stha means situated. Sthiti, sthanam. So Krishna is situated in our hearts. Ishvaraha sarvabhutanam hrideshe arjuna tishtati. Not just in our hearts, but in the heart of every living entity. Because Krishna is situated, and because the devotee is trying to engage in devotional service, Krishna personally helps. Atma bhavastaha gnana deepena bhasvata. I light the lamp. Gnana deepa. Deepa means the light, but this is the light of knowledge. Bhasvata, by which their hearts become enlightened. So there was this family, the child, the daughter, small daughter, and the father, they were traveling. And on the road, suddenly they saw a big obstacle. A big branch of a tree had fallen. And suddenly the father applied the brake. And thankfully they did not hit it. And then the child was like perplexed what to do. Oh, we need to go to my play date and we need to get rid of this. We need to go past this. How can we go? She started to cry. And then the father said, no, it is very easy. You can get down of this car and with all your effort at your disposal, try to move this branch that has fallen and obstructing the road. And the child said, Dad, are you kidding? Do you think I can do this? Yes, you can do it. Use all the strength you have at your disposal and get rid of this. And then the child got down, and with the confidence given by the father, she started to move the branch. It was just wiggling here and there, but it would not move. And then the child came back. Dad, it is not moving. Again, the dad said, no, with all the strength that you have at your disposal, try to get rid of this branch. And the child did again. It was not moving. And finally, the child gave up after many attempts and came to the father and said, I just cannot do it. The father said, did you use all the strength you have at your disposal? Yes, I did. The father said, no, you did not. And the child said, how? And the father said, I am also at your disposal. You did not invoke, you did not use my strength. I said, all the strength you have at your disposal. And then the child smiled. Dad, can you please come and help me? And then they went and together. Of course, it was the dad who was doing most of the work. And they got rid of it and they happily went past. the obstacle. So the point is, all of us have Krishna in our hearts. By ourselves, we are like the drop in the ocean. We are infinitesimal, but we have Krishna at our disposal, Krishna's knowledge at our disposal, Krishna's strength, Krishna's intelligence. And Krishna helps those who help themselves. If our main objective of life is to understand Him and go back to Him, get out of this material entanglement, material tribulations, Krishna will give from His unlimited knowledge. He will give knowledge and shine that lamp of knowledge within our hearts. So the previous verse was about Krishna giving the intelligence. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam. He gives the intelligence, how you can come back, how you can maneuver this material world and go back home, back to Godhead. And this verse is about knowledge. So the point is that a devotee, even though maybe apparently not very knowledgeable, maybe a considered an ignorant person, but because Krishna is there in the heart, he gives that knowledge to that person. Like here, Prabhupada is giving the example when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in Benares, Varanasi. This was 500 years ago. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. He came as a devotee of Krishna. And his mission was to propagate the Yuga Dharma of this Kali Yuga, which is Harinama Sankirtana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So his mission was promulgating the chanting of this holy name. And he was doing that in Benares. Thousands of people were following him. But then there was in Varanasi, even now, it is the seat of a lot of gnanis, scholars, and an important personality, very influential, learned scholar at that time was Prakashananda Saraswati. So, Prakashananda Saraswati was an impersonalist, but a big scholar and very knowledgeable in the Vedas. And he had thousands of disciples. And they would study Vedanta, speculate on its meaning, and discuss the intricacies using their advanced scholarship and so on and so forth. And then he sees Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is also a sannyasi, like Prakashananda Saraswati. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's method was different. He was chanting and dancing on the streets. And many people, masses of people were following him. And so he derided Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for being a sentimentalist. Sometimes scholars and philosophers, they criticize the devotees because they think that the devotees are just naive sentimentalists because they cannot understand higher topics. They do not know how to study the Vedic literature or discuss philosophy. For them, this lower thing is given, which is sentimental attachment to the deity and chanting and so on and so forth. But then the point is, Prabhupada writes, there are very, very learned scholars who have put forward the philosophy of devotion. So, devotional service is practiced not just by the sentimentalists. The great acharyas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he practiced, he recommended. Our great great acharyas, Vyasadeva himself, Narada Muni himself, the Kumaras themselves. It is practiced by these great personalities. So devotional service is not a sentiment. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eventually, by the request of a devotee, he came to the house of Prakashananda Saraswati and they started to express their thoughts. Why he is doing all this like a sentimentalist. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he started to address their concerns. So he proved them from quoting from the Vedic scriptures how the devotional service to the Lord is the highest dharma for any living entity. So he said in one of the shlokas that he talks to Prakashananda Saraswati, Krishna nameye ananda sindhu aswadana brahmananda tara age khato daka sama. What it means is, compared to the ocean of transcendental bliss that is tasted by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, compared to that, the pleasure derived from impersonal Brahman realization or what is called Brahmananda is like a shallow water in a canal. That is a comparison. And then he proves from quoting all the Vedic literature that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the ultimate dharma of the living entity. So he offered these various explanations, explaining that from the Vedic literature that the ultimate goal of life is prema, prema pumardho mahan, love of Godhead. And then, impressed by his explanations, these Mayavadi sannyasis, they came to their senses. They realized how wrong they were and they became repentant. And they started to become followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, including Prakashananda Saraswati himself. And he lamented, Prakashananda Saraswati lamented his previous harsh comments. And he resolved to dedicate himself to the chanting of Krishna's holy names. So, the modern philosophers, they think that pure knowledge and discriminating ability is what is important. For those who are ignorant, does not help them. But then here the answer is given by the Lord. Those who are engaged in pure devotional service, even though they may be without sufficient education, even though they may be without sufficient knowledge of the Vedic principles, Krishna gives that guidance from within. Krishna gives knowledge and Krishna gives the intelligence. Intelligence is the ability to apply knowledge. It's not good enough that you have knowledge. You need to be able to use at the right time. That also Krishna gives. Like there was this another instance mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. There was this great sage called Durvasa Muni. So this Durvasa Muni, one time he visited this court, the king's court, Ambarish Maharaj, who was a great devotee of Krishna. And so the Ambarish Maharaj, he received the sage, welcomed him with all respect, and his disciples. And he wanted to offer them prasadam, grand prasadam. So arrangements was being made. But then Durvasa Muni said, I need to finish my duties, take bath and chanting some mantras and so on and so forth. And so he went to take care of those. And then it was getting delayed. And then Maharaj Ambarish was fasting because of Ekadashi. And the time is approaching for breaking the fast. But he could not break the fast without the guest being fed. That's the custom, isn't it? So he was in dilemma. Durvasa Muni was not coming back, and the timing is elapsing to break the fast. So Krishna gave him intelligence. He also consulted other senior Vaishnavas, Brahmanas. They all cons- uh, gave him that advice that he can take some water and break the fast. So water is considered both as breaking the fast and continuing the fast. So he is not eating something else, so it's not going to be disrespectful to the guest. And then Durvasa Muni came after that, and then he obviously understood what had happened, and then he became enraged in anger, and he lost control over his senses. See, such a great sage, having such a great knowledge, but his intelligence was bewildered. He lost control of his intelligence. As Krishna says, Dhyayato Vihayan Pumsa Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Bhijayate. When we contemplate the objects of the senses, we develop some attachment for them. Sangha. It's natural. The more you see an advertisement, the more you desire to possess that. The more you hear about something, the more you desire to possess it. So, the more you contemplate, the more attachment you have for that. Attachment causes desires. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. Oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. I hope to do this, I hope to achieve that with this. And then when that is not happening, as is the case in the material world, not everything happens according to your wish. Krodha happens. Krodho abhijayate. So from Krodha, lot of things happen. We lose control over what we speak, what we do, and lot of negative consequences. So even a great sage of that category, he could not control his anger. And he immediately, I will show you who I am. I will teach you a lesson for disrespecting me. He wanted to be respected like a great personality. That was the desire in his heart. So he released this great demon by his mystic power, who would be empowered to go and attack Ambarish Maharaj and kill him. And the moment this demon was ready to attack, Krishna could not tolerate that. Immediately, Krishna released his Sudarshan Chakra, sent the Sudarshan Chakra, immediately it beheaded this demon. And not only that, the chakra started to attack Durvasa Muni, who originated this demon. And Durvasa Muni started to run for his life. And he went to every place, but the chakra started to follow him. He would not leave. He went to Shiva's abode, Brahma's abode. He hid in so many places. Still, the chakra was following. Nobody could help him. Nobody could give protection. This is, after all, the mighty Sudarshan Chakra. And even he went to Vaikuntha, pleaded the Lord. The Lord said, I am helpless. Only my devotee can help you. And finally, he came and fell at the lotus feet of Ambarish Maharaj and begged forgiveness. And then, when Ambarish Maharaj became so embarrassed that this is a great sage and he's put in so much trouble because of me, he felt repentant. And then he, after all, excused. And then the Sudarshan Chakra went back. So, Prabhupada says in that connection that although Durvasa Muni was a great mystic Brahmana, he did not know what is what. That is the difference between a pure devotee and a so called learned scholar of Vedic knowledge. The devotee, being always situated in the core of the Lord's heart, Sadhavo Hrudayam Mahyam Sadhunam Hrudayam Tvaham. They surely get all the instructions directly from the Lord. So, this is the thing. This is the advantage of a devotee. They can access, just like the child was able to access the father's strength, the devotee can access. The Lord gives his unlimited knowledge when required. Like you see, our Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the West, you will find a lot of conversations with scientists, philosophers, eminent scholars, the faculties of great institutions. The disciples would arrange his conversations and debates, and so on and so forth. And Prabhupada, nonchalantly, effortlessly, he would challenge, he would pose bold questions, he would defeat them. They wouldn't have answers. And then Prabhupada said, see why we are able to challenge? We challenge because we are following the path of devotion. We are not scientists, but we could not challenge unless we were convinced. How is it possible? Because, see, suppose I am a layman, I am challenging big, big scientists. How? Because we have known it through devotional service. This is the science. This is the difference. Because Krishna is revealing in the heart. So a devotee becomes, he knows everything. Krishna is giving that knowledge from within. So that is the secret. That is the advantage of a devotee. In 1943, that's the time for the Second World War, isn't it? So these Japanese and British, they were fighting. And the Japanese at the time, they had already taken Burma and they were at the doors of India approaching Bengal. Now West Bengal, of course. But at the time it was Bengal together. And the British, what they did, if the Indian boats, they were carrying food which had lots and lots of rice crops and all of that. And they feared that the Japanese were coming close and they would fall into the hands of the enemy. So what they did, they sank, intentionally they sank many of these boats carrying food. And that left the Indian population, that left them starving. And that left them without the boats they needed for trade. And what ensued was a famine. That was the worst famine that had hit Bengal in 150 years. And the prices skyrocketed, and people died on the streets, and people took to begging. And At that time, Prabhupada was recollecting how he struggled to find some rice and so on and so forth. He collected, the prices were skyrocketing. Somehow he got something for sustenance. And but then he said, those people, even though they became beggars, even though they were suffering so much out of famine, they never resorted to anything illegal, illegitimate, and out of ordinary. And he praised, Prabhupada praised the culture of India. They are so trained that in spite of that artificial famine, they did not commit this theft or stealing. They were thinking, all right, God has given us this, it's our karma, that's all right. They knew that the laws of nature were acting according to action and reaction. But then, eventually, because of the Western influence, the greed has taken over. This world has everything for the man's need, but not for the man's greed. Like Prabhupada's spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, used to say, there is no scarcity in this world. People think, oh, there is so much of scarcity. He said, there is no scarcity in the world. The only scarcity is of Krishna consciousness. That is the only scarcity. And so Prabhupada, at that time, he followed those teachings of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Even though people were struggling with basic necessities, he found that the basic reason, the core reason why people were suffering because of lack of Krishna consciousness. And in that time, at that time, he started this magazine during those troubled times. He started this magazine called Back to Godhead. And he designed a logo and he gave a tagline. So he designed a logo. For every company there is a logo, there is a tagline, so on and so forth. So in the midst of the calamities, he launched this Back to Godhead in 1944, and he gave that logo. He designed the logo where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, Krishna himself coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to show his mercy and enlightening people. And there are masses of people below him seeking that knowledge from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is delivering all people. So he named that logo as, or the tagline as, Godhead is light, nations is darkness. Where there is light, there is no darkness. This was the tagline he gave. That means wherever there is Godhead or Krishna, there is light or knowledge. And nations where there is no Krishna, that is darkness. So, in order to become enlightened, in order to become knowledgeable, all we need to do is invoke Krishna in our lives. It is like that one switch which removes all the darkness in the room instantly. And that's what Prabhupada did, which became successful. That's what the Acharyas recommend. And that's what everybody, any devotee who takes to this, he feels in the heart. And to invoke Krishna within our lives, within our hearts is very easy, especially in this Kali Yuga, just by associating with his sound incarnation, the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments? Okay, one question came. Hare Krishna Prabhu, if one cannot control his senses, how come Durvasa Muni is a great sage? Yes, it's a very good question. That is why one who controls his senses only is called a Goswami. A great sage does not mean a great pure devotee. Sages typically they set out to control their senses. But most of them, not most of them, maybe some of them, they do not know the right method to control the senses. They go do Mauna in, let's say, Himalayas. They perform a lot of austerities. They do a lot of restraining from engaging in senses. A lot of restrictions. It is like cutting the grass on the surface. But then the seeds are there below. And when there is water, those seeds will sprout again. So, sages means one who is endeavoring to control the senses. And like Vishwamitra, he endeavored for so long. And eventually, when Menaka came, what happened? He could not control his senses. So, a great sage does not necessarily mean a pure devotee. A pure devotee has reached the stage of perfection of a great sage means a pure devotee. So until you reach a pure devotional status, you are not considered perfect. You are on the path. You are trying to discover how to do it, but you have not come to that stage. Hope that clarifies the question. Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.